Good evening. Hello, hello, hello. This is Marcy here with Brown Girl Collective, BGC Book Club. Waiting for some folks to come on in and join us for this great conversation this evening. So I will give you all a couple of moments to come on and join us, and then we will go from there. As you're joining the group this evening, please let us know where you're from or where you're joining us from. And I see we got a few people in. Great. So let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. Also, if you are in the BGC Book Club group and you would like to leave a comment, please look at the bottom where it says before leaving a comment, grant StreamYard permission to see your name. Otherwise, we won't know who's leaving the comment. So, all right. So we got a good group. Y'all are on time. I love it. I love it. Yes. So I'm not going to delay you so we can have time to have a great conversation this evening. Once again, I'm Marcy Thomas. I am the founder of Brown Girl Collective as well as the BGC Book Club, which was started a few months ago back in April. And we've had a great run this year of reading a lot of awesome books and having great authors come on to join us and discuss their novels as well as some memoirs and things of that nature. So to close out this year in a grand fashion, we are meeting with or talking, we will be talking with Catherine Adel West in regards to her book, Saving Ruby King. So, about Catherine. Catherine Adel West was born and raised in Chicago, where she currently resides. She graduated with both her bachelor's and master's of science in journalism from the University of Illinois Urbana. Her work is published in Black Fox, Literary Magazine, 5 to 1, Better Than Starbucks, Doors Ajar, 805 Lit and Art, The Helix Magazine, Lunch Ticket, and Gay Magazine. In between writing and traveling, Catherine works as an editor. And so without any further delay, let's go ahead and bring on one of Library Journal's top fiction authors of the year, Catherine Adel West. All right, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Marcy. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. We're glad to have you here, and it's an honor to have you as our last author of the year. So you've been getting a lot of buzz about the book, and now that I had a chance to read it, I can understand why. So tell us a little bit about your journey as an author, and what is it that brought you to writing Saving Ruby King?
So a little bit about my journey. I've been writing kind of on and off my whole life. Poems, little short stories. I never really thought about making a living at it, in terms of being a fiction writer. Black families don't do the whole bohemian lifestyle, so you need to, along with your passion, you need to be able to kind of commodify what it is you want to do. So I decided to go into journalism because I figured like that was kind of like the best way to kind of commodify this passion that I had for writing. And that's what I did. And I ended up becoming an editor, and I was pretty happy, being an editor. And then I started writing like short stories, and I was with a friend and we were at a wedding, and I was telling her, I have this short story and this is what I was thinking about writing. And it was kind of the basis of Saving Ruby King. And she's like, oh my God, you should write a book. And I'm thinking, oh, how hard can it be? I have like 2 degrees in journalism. It'll be fine. Yeah, so no, it wasn't. It's hard. Writing a book is so hard. And just because you have a background in writing or like in, English or something like that, like, writing will break you down. It will just show you exactly where you are. And so it took me 5 years write the book because I had to learn how to write a book. And even then, after the 5 years, I still had to learn so much about plot, pacing, all of this. And after about 9 months of querying, I got a literary agent. We worked on the book some more. And then we went on sub, which basically means, we sent out my book to traditional publishers. And within 6 weeks, we had an offer, which is Yeah, like it's not typical. So I
Okay.
mean, thank God. Like I was just like very, very blessed to wind up with Park Row HarperCollins. Because I didn't really honestly think my book was good enough. I didn't. Like I just didn't
It's
think
good.
it was. Because like it was like the first book I ever wrote, and the first book I ever
Right.
wrote was the first book that got my agent, and then I got like it's kind of rare that happens. Like because once again, I had no idea what I was doing. Like if you look at the book, when I went like I didn't. Who decides to be like I'm gonna write a non-linear multi POV book? Like for the
Right.
first book you decide to write, you
Right.
do it because you crazy and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Like that's
very
what
ambitious,
happened. It
sure.
was extremely ambitious, and so my behind sat up there and just was like, non-linear, multi POV. What's the worst that could happen? Everything. Like the rough draft is a hot mess. Like when I
Wow.
look at the rough draft that I thought was ready to go out to agents, like I completely get why, a lot of them pass because they're just like, there's potential, but damn, like what is baby, what is you doing? No, no. So I had to, it was like this really steep learning curve. So
Mhm.
I'm just really blessed with everything that's, happened, especially in like a pandemic.
Right.
So yeah.
That
So I'm
probably
sorry.
works to your advantage though, because a lot of people are home or they have more time to read. So that's actually a good thing right now coming out.
And then also with like the whole social unrest, because this book touches on a lot of things, including,
Right.
police brutality and racism. Like this, it's kind of this really weird feeling. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
kind of like you're grateful, but then you feel a little guilty because it's just like, I mean, I really wish it didn't take that to sell copies. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's
Right.
not,
That's true.
yeah, like that's not something anybody would want. It's not something I wanted. But the thing is, I remember a lot of people will say, like, well, it's so relevant. Like, how did you know like this was going to be going on? I'm like, I'm African American.
Right.
This has always gone on. This isn't new.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's new for you. You guys are like opening your eyes, but like this is all, this is what it's always been. I think that's a question that aggravates me. Like, how did you know to write about this? I'm like, I just wrote about what I know, like
Right.
what a lot of African Americans know. So,
Right. Well, one thing I do know, because of course, in doing my research, I did see that there yes, there's the process of writing the book and all of that, but just the story in and of itself, parts of it come from your own experiences or pieces of your own experience. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And then we can get into the actual book.
oh yeah,
But
yeah, no, no problem. Ask whatever questions. I'm an open book. But
yeah, but boom.
uh, so you write what you know as a writer, and
Hmm.
I wanted to really focus on Black father daughter relationships
Okay.
because I'm like 40 and I'm still kind of trying to process how my dad and I relate and all of these kind of, messy feelings, but like there's still love there. But then there's like, there are things that, we still have to work through, like that, from things like that happened in the past and, being an adult and then trying to like kind of, you're an adult and your father's an adult and you're like trying to figure all of this stuff out. And
Right.
so, Saving Ruby King honestly started as a way for me to understand the relationship I had with my dad. And it
Okay.
literally morphed into something completely different because, like, I'm like, you're not going to write 80,000 words just about a Black father daughter relationship. And there aren't like stakes or, anything kind of propelling the plot along. Otherwise, you just have like a bunch of pretty words that like nobody really wants to read.
Hmm.
So, I just decided to use the relationship with my dad as inspiration.
Okay.
And then, just, Chicago
Right.
and Black church, because that's, where, I grew up in the Black church and just using all of those things kind of as inspiration to inform and enhance, these characters in my head. And so,
Hmm.
like a lot of the characters are based on, people that I know, but I think like most writers do that, besides, if you don't write what you know, or at least, if you're not like heavily researching it, then you
Mm-hmm.
kind of have something flat. And I always feel like readers know when you have a passion for the subject, whether or not you grew up in it, they
Right.
know like, oh, okay, now she researched, she did this,
Mm-hmm.
So I just, had to make sure to kind of, show that the passion that I had for my family and for my city and, just that informed, my writing. And if you're going to ask me if my dad has read my book, yes, he has
Okay.
twice.
Twice. Okay, well that's a good thing. That's a
Oh,
good thing.
yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you which one of the characters is most like your dad because we're not gonna go there
Oh, I
today.
could no. I mean, like I have no problems. I already told him it's pretty much Jackson. Like Jackson
Jackson.
Potter was.
At least
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Jackson and not Lebanon.
Oh no, no, because I'll be talking about my father past tense. Like my mom doesn't play that.
You're right. Exactly. Well, one of the
Like,
things that I really did enjoy about the book, just getting into the story, is the fact that it is told from a lot of different perspectives. And as you mentioned in writing it, you're like, that's a different way of doing things. What do you feel having the different perspectives or being able to tell it from different perspectives added to the meat of the story? Or
I
what made you choose to do it that way versus just maybe having
okay,
one perspective?
right. So once again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I started
Mm-hmm.
writing this book. So I and please don't laugh at me. I thought that I was like creating multi POV when I was doing it because I had never read anything like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna do this and like different characters and like this is gonna be great. And this once again since 2012. So like the book that came out in 2012 was The 12 Tribes of Hattie by Ayanna Mathis.
Right, right. I remember that.
I literally sat on this couch. You can't see it, but like I sat on my couch and just was like in tears. I'm like, well, screw it. I'm just not gonna write the story because I thought that I was gonna do this, and now it's just not gonna work because
Right.
and I mean, and like Ayanna Mathis did like a brilliant job, right? So I was, and I was gonna try to feel sorry for myself, but you can only do that like for like 4.5 seconds in a black family. So my dad was just like, just still write the story. Like, I'll just write it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
did. And at first, truth be told, this book went through so many iterations. Like, yes, this was the first book I wrote, but I joke and I say like I wrote 20 books before I got to this book. So at first the book was like in, I think like kind of omniscient third person. Then I decided to write it in first person. And then I was like, but like these other kind of characters have this perspective and what is their perspective. So then like that's when I started thinking about like the whole multi POV thing, and then I stuck with that. And then I had a colleague, a former colleague, Luke Salazar, who had read like a really, 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 really early version and said, it would be interesting, like if you gave the church a story, if you gave the church its own perspective too. And I'm like, dude, you're freaking brilliant. Like that's a great idea. So then
Yeah.
I added like another perspective on top of all of the other ones. I kind of think it helps to look at all the different sides of a situation because we all have different truths. We all have different ways in which we experience things, right? So, like the way you might take something that I say to you one way, it's like different from how I might have meant it. Or the way you experience something, even though we're experiencing the same thing, you get something different out of it. And I've always been kind of fascinated with the psychology behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And with trying to figure out like whose voice is whose,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like it's a real challenge, but one that I love like diving into. So,
I really enjoyed that part of the book, actually, the different perspectives, because one of the things, some like Lebanon and Sarah, the mother and son, they weren't really likable characters if you just looked at them on the surface.
right.
But once you got a chance to see why they were the way they were and, kind of the background, even though you still might not have liked some of their actions, it gave you a little more empathy for them or could understand where they may have been coming from. And one thing, I see some folks are leaving comments. A couple are about writing, and we can circle back around to that near the end, the writing questions. But if you have any questions about the story or comments, please do add them so this can be a conversation for all of us. So, But that is one of the things about the different perspectives that I love. And seeing you talk about the story from the church's perspective reminded me of Anne Petry's The Street. I don't know if you've
Oh,
ever read, because in that book, The Street is one of the characters. So I don't know if you ever read it or not, but
I know who Ann Petrie is. I have not
mm,
had the pleasure of reading her, but she definitely is on my TBR list. I know
right.
who Ann Petrie is. I'm not
Right.
crazy. I
And I
know
would
who
just
she is.
suggest that to everyone. I want to say that's the first million selling book by a black woman written
It
in the
was.
40s
It
or
was.
50s or something like that. So if you
It
haven't
was.
read it, The Street, everybody, it's similar that The Street has its own perspective. So in that, so saving Ruby King, one of the things that led us to wanting to save Ruby, of course, is the loss of her mother. That what prompted. But really, if you look back even further, just in the way that the story went backwards, there were things that were going on with Ruby even prior to the situation with Alice, her mom, passing away. So because there's so many different perspectives, what is it about Ruby? Well, we know what happens at the end, but what is it about Ruby in particular that made her the person worth saving versus maybe one of the other
Well, I kind of think that the theme or the kind of the narrative that's kind of woven throughout the book is kind of like how the Potters and the Kings were always kind of interwoven. It was like this
characters?
kind of cycle of one of the Potters trying to save one of the Kings and there being
Mm-hmm.
kind of like this tragic consequence.
Right.
And it's kind of this one thing that, you know, they would always kind of find themselves in. It's kind of like this kind of inertia, this energy of just being like put together no matter how much you try to do something, it just winds up like going so tragically wrong, because like choices that you made. So I don't really know that um Ruby herself was kind of necessarily in need of saving, but just kind of the idea of the saving and the idea of, all of these generations trying to help this one family. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, did they really need the help, or would they have been better off if you'd have just left well enough alone, or what would have happened if you'd have done this? You know what I mean? It's also about choice and the choices that we make in terms of the people in our lives and the people that we let in our lives, and just kind of the consequences of that. So I never really looked at it as kind of like it was Ruby in particular that needed to be saved, but just the Potters feeling like all the sacrifices that they made, something it needs to be worth something, and it kind
Right.
of all culminates in Ruby.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And that makes sense. That makes sense. And also, I look at it from the perspective that obviously in this book, and it happens a lot of times in our families, there are cycles of dysfunction, generational curses, as some would call it, especially in a lot of church settings. And
Exactly.
really, the King family is the one, even though the Potter family had its issues as well, it seemed like the King family was really dealing with a lot of generational curses, just starting with King Saul going all the way down the line. So I also see it as that perhaps in saving Ruby, we can change the trajectory for the rest of the family, depending on what would happen with her moving forward. So she could be the one that changes that path.
And
So
the one to kind of break that cycle, but kind of the whole thing in breaking the cycle is doing what? It's like being able to tell the truth. The truth in your experience and the truth in your story. And the problem is when you try to cover it up, you know,
mm-hmm.
there are things that happen that add to the toxicity, that add to the secrets, that add to that kind of generational curse, and then you have that layer upon that layer upon that layer. So it's just kind of one of those things of telling your truth, shouting your truth, and just letting it be known. And I think that that's something like if that would have happened earlier, who knows what could have happened? But all of this point lies with Ruby. What will she do? Will she be able to break that cycle, or will it continue? You got to buy the book to find out.
Right. For those who haven't read it. And I know some of you that have read it probably like, why aren't you getting into the details? Because there are people who haven't. So, you can ask your questions, but we just don't want to give away too many spoilers. So there'll be reason for people to go ahead and read
I'll
it.
answer as many questions as I can, and at the same time, just try not to spoil. I'll try to walk that fine line for you guys.
Right, absolutely. Now, one thing, just speaking, going back to Alice, because it's her passing that kind of sets the stage for the things that follow, I guess, in real time, so to speak, not so much the flashbacks. One thing with her that I found interesting as a character is that she had a real savior complex.
But like most Black women do, though, right?
Right,
Like most
right,
of us do. Like she's not unique by any means in how she tries to save Lebanon and
right,
tries to make him into something he's not. Like, so many of us are guilty as
right,
to, take that squire and make him that white knight. Like,
right.
no. So, yeah, Alice had that savior complex, absolutely. But I think it's just something like that's innate in a lot of Black women, you know what I mean? Because, we just want to nurture, we want things to be better. And how can we
True.
make it better at the expense of ourselves and our
Absolutely.
health and our sanity and our emotions? And you know what I mean? And you see kind of like eventually it breaks you down until you're just like this shell of a person, I mean, they always, at that point kind of talk about Alice in past tense of like all these dreams she had for herself, none of
Mm,
which she got um to fulfill, to realize.
right. And just the amount of sacrifices she made, being an abused wife, and then just sacrifices she made in terms of doing things to help him, as you said, at the expense of herself and potentially setting herself up for other things to happen as well. And I just found that really interesting because someone said I put up that up like, woo,
Ooh,
Alice.
Alice.
Oh yeah, it disappeared. But yeah, like Alice was something. That was a lot with what went
I
on
mean,
with her.
yeah.
It was a lot. And to think, and I can think of, I mean, we all know someone that unfortunately sometimes it does go to the extent, that it wound up in this book, but we all probably know some woman who has just sacrificed everything for someone who just didn't have the capacity to love her in the right way. And
Exactly.
just thinking, back to Ruby, who is the book is named after, how it impacted her as well. The things that mom was doing impacted Ruby to the point that she hated her mom because she couldn't see she didn't like what was going on with her mom, as well as not liking what her dad did. So it's a lot. It was a lot to read that and to see that, and then like in my head think of people that I know that maybe not at that extreme, but that have gone through similar situations where they just sacrifice so much and never had the opportunity to really be all that they could be at the sake for the sake of someone else.
Right. I mean, I would never really say like I think Ruby never really hated Alice. I kind of think that she hated the
The
fact
situation.
she hated the situation, like the fact that she stayed with Lebanon, with her father, because
Mm-hmm.
there's this push and pull that all mothers and daughters have, and then with Black mothers and daughters it's just something way more intense,
Mm-hmm.
so there's this always this kind of like push and pull of like, why the hell are you with dad? Like he's done
Right.
this, and this. Shall I name some more? You know what I
Right.
mean? But like there was a story before you, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what that story was and what keeps them tethered together. And I kind of feel like Ruby doesn't, really know that
Right.
story because she doesn't know her father's story because he doesn't know how to express himself other than like rage and anger and alcoholism because his mom didn't know how to express
Right.
herself anything other than rage and anger and alcoholism. You know what I mean? So it's just kind
Right.
of one of those things where um there was kind of there were these long odds from the beginning that there was going to ever really be this kind of reconciliation of thoughts and feelings and like understanding why people were doing what they were doing on the outside. Like nobody ever talked about it. Like everything was kind of silent and kept quiet and like swept under the rug. So,
Right,
and
and
that's kind
that's
of the tragedy of it.
right, and that's one of the things that having those different perspectives, at least for me, that's the thing those different perspectives really helped with because it did allow you to see, as I mentioned earlier, you could see, okay, this is what's going on here, this is what happened over there, this is why she's this way, and then having the church, if these walls could talk kind of thing, where the church seeing things that maybe the other people didn't even bring up. So that was pretty neat to read and piece all of that together. But thinking back to Lebanon for a minute and his relationship with his mom, now that was something, and we know why he had the relationship that he had with his mom, but that was just very just challenging to see, this mom who didn't really I can't even put words on it. Really, she didn't have a good relationship with her son, and there's reasons why she didn't. But then, in a way, I think there was some love there, but she just didn't know how to express it because of the situation. So, and I know that there are things like that happen, a lot of times as well. That there's a thing on the inside. Someone said, "Yeah, so many secrets." Absolutely, there's something that is going on the inside, and you really only know one way to express it, and the other person not understanding. In this case, the child not understanding. So that was
Right. Like, okay. So like one of the shows that I love to look at is Fix My Life with Ian Levan
oh
Vance.
god, yes.
Hello, beloveds. Okay. So the thing is like one of the things that she always talks about, especially when it comes to like kids and their moms when they have like these fractured relationships, is that she'll always ask them, or ask the mom, did you tell your son or your daughter
Mm-hmm.
your story as a woman?
Mm-hmm.
That's something Sarah never did to Lebanon. Because what would happen if she did? How would that affect him? So she just pushed it way down deep because it's too
Mm-hmm.
painful to express. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, um, when you don't know love, how do you express it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you never figure out that path and it can become just very toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And when there is levels of abuse and treachery and lies and secrets behind it, it's kind of almost impossible to truly fully love someone, even if it is, your child, bone of your bone, flesh of your flesh, without
Mm-hmm.
it kind of these kind of really messed up and distorted ways. And unfortunately, that's where, Sarah was with Lebanon. There really wasn't anything that she could, really do unless she told her story as a
Right.
woman. The
Right.
only people who knew that, one of them, Naomi, was, already dead by that time. And Violet is just like, I'll take this to my grave if you want to take this to
Right.
your grave too. And so unfortunately, if you can't kind of express that,
Mm-hmm.
then there's just really, there's nothing else you can really do. So, that's kind of like in a certain way, like the tragedies of one of the tragedies, one of the many tragedies of Sarah.
Right. Right. Yeah, that because it really he didn't really even know certain things until after she was already gone. Or I might be getting my timeline mixed up, but either already gone or very close to being gone before he even discovered things about his mom, where he could have a little bit of an understanding as to why things were the way that they were with her.
And that might, even, have given him a little piece more than maybe, she would have recognized. But sometimes we're so busy thinking like there's this one way to protect someone,
Absolutely.
instead of just like the truth being the protection,
Right.
that, we sometimes make, bad choices.
Absolutely. Well, on a more positive side, one thing about Sarah, even though, she had a challenging life and a lot of things that were going on with her, was the friendships that she did have with Naomi and with Violet. That was positive, that throughout her life she had two friends who really stood with her and helped her and supported her. They may not have called her on her BS, so to speak, in the ways, but then that goes back to the whole thing of having secrets. And, sometimes not wanting, you love a person and you might know something's not right, but you really don't want to run the risk of losing the relationship, so you don't really tell the whole truth.
Right.
But it was positive to see that they had this friendship that lasted for years. However, there's a piece of that kind of feels like a trauma bond. Like they're bond, you know what I mean? How something has happened and it links you together, and it's kind of similar. I saw that with Lebanon and Jackson as well. It's like these things that kind of bonded you together. That
Exactly.
maybe if these things hadn't happened, you may or may not have maintained a relationship. So, what was kind of your thought process behind that as well?
It was literally about cycles, the cycles that we see ourselves go through. The book actually was originally called Potter's Wheel because of
Oh,
the biblical reference, and because it was originally supposed to be way more about the potters than it actually
okay.
ended up being. um and it was about like those kind of generational cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So it was completely intentional to have that love, but like you needed something else to bond them. You know what I mean? And you
Mm-hmm.
needed a secret, and a deep secret and a dark secret.
Right.
Something that like if I say this, everything goes down, everybody goes down. Because otherwise it's just like, so why are they still friends? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
why are they still in one another's lives? So, I kind of needed like that MacGuffin, in order to kind of keep everybody tied and tethered together. Now, in terms of, and I just want to touch back on something you said, the relationship between Ruby, Naomi, excuse me, not Ruby, Sarah, Naomi, and Violet wasn't always positive because Violet and Sarah were getting their tiffs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that like sisters, kind of,
Right.
they,
Absolutely.
they do, you know what I mean? And then like there's one point where the same thing kind of happens with Ruby and Layla. So it's kind of one of those things where with black female friendships, you absolutely are bonded together, but there are those times when it's just like, girl, you were on my last and good one.
Yes.
Seriously. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like I love you, but if
Mm-hmm.
only one of us comes back, it's gonna be me. Um, so I wanted to kind of show that as well. And that's where kind of like the whole church dynamic and who's pastor, who's not pastor, that kind of thing kind of plays into this kind of little latent competition between Sarah and Violet. Like on the whole, they definitely would do anything to protect them, protect one another.
Mm-hmm.
But there are those fissures, there are those cracks in the foundation. But that's like with any friendship, with any relationship. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And just thinking, I know we've talked about Lebanon a bit. Jackson, as the pastor, he was very interesting character as well. Just based upon him being the pastor and carrying this secret for so many years, even about himself, and thinking things about himself that later on he found out wasn't necessarily the case.
yeah,
um, just in that struggle that he had as a man. And you mentioned earlier on that you came from a church family, and I'm assuming your father was a pastor. Um, was that something that you saw a lot in your own situation that led you to write it that way? That here's this person that has this strong secret, the person that you are in the face of everyone on Sunday morning and Wednesday night or whatever the case may be, and this person that this struggle that you're having internally.
yeah. I mean, it's something that I definitely witnessed and still witness in my dad. Right, like um, I remember having like conversations with him in terms of, you are always this way in front of people, but like we seem to get the scraps. And I think my dad said something to the effect of, well, Kathy, this, home should be my safe place to fall. And I said, I call bullshit. You don't, we don't get the scraps. We're your family. If anybody gets the scraps, it doesn't get to be us, like, and I could say this now, like as a 40-year-old, like I can't say this as a 14-year-old. So like I have to wait 20 years to have a come to Jesus moment with my father, to say, be like, dude, I love you, but like you are one way in front of people and then like another way in front of us. And I feel like we don't get the best of you all the time. And like, that's not fair. And and as a result, like I think he tries to work on it. I don't really work on my mouth, but he
so you are like Layla. Layla is real.
Oh yeah. Layla was. Everybody figures that out. That is no big secret. Like
Layla
my
is
aunt,
you.
my aunt was doing my hair once, and she was like, "So you're Layla," and I was like, "Yeah, that's obvious. You knew that. Like everybody knew that. Like anybody who knows me knew that. Like that wasn't what." How could you? No, I literally, even some of the things she says, some of the ways in which she speaks, is the way in which I speak. I mean, you write what you know. And Layla is one courageous but rebellious smartass. And I said, who's a courageous but rebellious smartass? I said, me. And so I just went ahead and wrote that.
Right. And I mean, that's real because what you're saying is I have known a lot of people, whether it be the wife or the children, of a pastor who will say, everything goes to the church, everything goes here. And then if it's a situation where he's a pastor and he has a full-time job or whatever, everything is going someplace else, and it's not necessarily being with the family because there is this role or that person or that pastor is trying to fulfill, and the family can suffer and have resentment a lot of times because of that, because they don't feel like they're first.
Yeah, and I kind of think that because like maybe my dad and his family, like, they didn't really express themselves, but say like my mom's side of the family, that's all they do. So I'm more so like that side of the family. So like I completely express myself regardless. And now that I'm 40, you can't do nothing with me at this point. Like,
like I'm grown.
I'm grown. I'm for real grown. I have my own place. I pay my own bills. There's nothing you can really do except listen to what it is I'm saying. You can either take it or not take it. So Layla was kind of where I was at that point in my life, in like my, earlyish, middle-ish 20s, when I was just realizing that kind of independence and being able to find my voice as a young adult woman. You know what I mean? I'll try to be semi-respectful in terms of what it is I needed to say and what I needed to express, instead of like just stuffing it all in. You know what I mean? And I kind of think that's, the problem with like a lot of the characters. They just like stuff things like AD down, and you see what that gets you, so.
Right, because actually it's more healthy to speak your mind. And as you say, you don't have to be an ass about it necessarily, but
let people, you can be respectful.
Otherwise, they don't know, and you are holding these things in, and years later, and a person gets to the point where they're on their deathbed, and then you finally decide to tell your truth when maybe you could have had a better relationship all along had you spoken your truth.
You're doing something, or you just it's been packed down for so long. And Miss Marcy, has this ever happened to you? The person who was always pissing you off, you just stuffed it down for so long, and they just say hello to you. What the heck? What? Just what? You know what I mean? And you completely go off on it. And they were just like, I just asked for a second of potato salad. I just asked for some more potato salad. Like, why are you snapping off on me? I didn't do anything. Yeah, and you're talking about something that happened like back in, February of 1965, and they just sit up there like, what took you so long? Why didn't you just say? So so it's kind of like, it's also, with Saving Ricky, like just if there are situations and things like you don't hold it in, you need to express it because you see the consequences of what holding in and holding back get you. Now I want potato salad.
Well, one of the things we talked about Chicago, and you and I kind of talked about it a little bit before we came online, because I actually, let me see, someone's talking about the Layla. Layla was a good, determined friend, whether Ruby wanted her to be or not. That is very true. She was like, "You trying to get away from me? I'm not letting you get away from me." Well, since this is, before I go to my next question, since this is based on you, are you that type of friend that would do the things that Layla would do in terms of, girl, I'm gonna watch you, I'm following you, I'm gonna make sure you're doing the right things? Is that part of who you are as a friend? You think?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can, yeah, it is. Some people would say you're controlling, or
Mm-hmm.
you're extra, or you have no chill. Nope, I don't care. You're right. And like, what do you want me to do? It's kind of like I don't back off, especially if I think something is wrong, like wrong. Like I'm not gonna back off on it because I'd rather do everything I can to help the situation instead of just laying back and being like, oh well, and then something happens, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here being like, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to live in the land of shoulda, woulda, coulda. And
Right.
this isn't just friends. This is like ask my brother, talk to my mom, talk to my
Mm-hmm.
dad. Like all of my relationships are kind of based on this really overreaching, overarching, I don't know when to quit type of attitude. And it's intense. So, so sometimes my brother got to be like, hey, Kat, you need to just back off. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. And then I don't.
And you know what? I mean, there are those times where it might be best that you do, but then there's other times that it's good that you don't.
I
Because I
didn't,
think
right?
about, there's this saying, check on your strong friends. And there are some people who think that, just because the person, it doesn't always have to be a crisis situation, put it that way.
Right.
It's good to just stay in touch with people and keep up with people and talk to people, because a lot of times, we are out here, we're going through it, and there is no one who will check in and say, hey, it's been a couple of weeks since I talked to you, or it's been, whatever, or someone who knows you well enough and they're looking at you, something's not right, what's going on? That person who's going to ask. And we need people like that in our lives, quite honestly. So thank you, Catherine, Layla. We need people like that who are going to check in on us and make sure that we're okay, regardless
An
of what.
alibi. I'm right here. Or a
Right,
shovel, which I'm looking
right,
at. I straight up have a shovel. I'm looking right at it.
right.
You
Well, you do
know.
live in Chicago, so a good segue into where I was going, because one of the things, and as we talked when we first came online, I was telling you how I spent some time living in the Chicagoland area, and so I do. Quite honestly, I didn't spend time in the South Side based upon where I worked, and I was more on the West Side and the suburbs and things like that. But one of the things that you said is that Chicago is a beautiful city with a lot of broken parts. How important was it for you that this novel take place in Chicago, and then also just show kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the in between of Chicago? How important was that to you?
I think it became important to me a little bit later. I think the story took place in Chicago because that's the city I know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you live in Savannah. Never lived in Savannah, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and I don't want to make something up. So
Right.
I just thought Chicago. This is where
Mm-hmm.
the story is going to take place because this is what I know, and I didn't know as much as I thought. Like there's research that I have to do on my own city.
Mm-hmm.
So I think later, the deeper I got into the book, the more I wanted to make sure that I portrayed Chicago in a realistic way, but also
Mm-hmm.
in a way that isn't always portrayed in the media. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the fact, like, I needed to make sure that Layla was like college educated. I needed to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that she came from a nuclear family, and that her brother wasn't like a drug dealer, and her dad wasn't in jail, and her
Right.
mom wasn't like working the streets. Like, I needed them to see that, like, there are a ton of nuclear families on the south side of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
There are good neighborhoods, there are good schools. Layla's a college graduate. Her brother works for the post office and is an artist. Her dad's a pastor. Her, mom is the first lady of a church. I needed them to also see, like, as wonderful as Chicago is, that there are the broken parts of it. So, like, the issues surrounding social justice and
Mm-hmm.
police brutality, and just how, when these things happen in Chicago, it's mainly like South Side and West Side, and like that's all there is to offer. And it's like, no, that's not the case. And also kind of like that delineation between the North Side and the South Side, and why there's such a divide there. So it's just like, it was something that I needed to deal with, but I didn't recognize it until I got real deep into the book and was like,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of Chicago in and of itself became a character. And then when I would go back to subsequent, like, versions of the book, like, I would add things here and there and there and here to, add, more of like the Chicago backstory, the Chicago that I knew. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the Chicago that I've learned about.
Right, right, absolutely. And you're right about that, because I've oftentimes heard people say that you can live in a city your whole life, but only know your block, only know your community. So you may think that you know because of that space in which you operate, but there is always more to it than just where you are. And like someone put in the comments that Layla has white friends, or at least one white friend that we talk about in the book, and that's true, because that gives yet another perspective, because that person is in Chicago, but she lives a
On the North
totally,
Side. Yeah.
yeah, she lives on the north side. So it definitely makes a difference in how people live, and their experiences of the city. Because I know, like, I can't think of her name right now, but it was like, I rarely come to this part of town. So it was different for her, the white character, as well as, for Layla when she would go and, interact. So that
Well,
just
I
shows.
kind of, yeah, because like Christy, yeah, like I really go past, I really go past 35th Street. That was something like an old coworker said one time, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't throw punch her. That's the reason I'm sitting here today. Because it's just like, Layla didn't go to the North Side, not because she didn't feel like it was just something that was too much for her. It was just like, well, y'all don't give a crap about us, so screw you guys. Like, if because y'all don't want to come down here, I'm not going up there. How about that? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that latent bitterness that, like I said, separates the North
Mm-hmm.
Side from the South Side, and like the things that go to the North Side that don't come down to the South Side, like the businesses and like all of that stuff. Like, all of that plays a huge role. And then in terms of the city in and of itself, I was always shown around the city. I was never one of those kids who just never left their neighborhood. Like, my mom wouldn't allow it. So my mom would take my brother and I a lot of different places around the city. So it's part of the reason, like, I'll be living downtown in a little bit. It's because, like, we were downtown so much, and we went to museums and plays, and like, so I was always familiar with the whole city of Chicago, but the things that were hidden from me were like the aspects of like the African American history of Chicago in
Mm-hmm.
and of itself. So, like, when I talk about the Chicago Bee, which is the
Newspaper.
library, yeah, that was like the new. I didn't even know. I didn't. All I knew about was the Chicago Defender. That's all I
Mm-hmm.
knew,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when I did this research on the Chicago Bee, because that's like a spot, a very pivotal moment where Jackson and Lebanon meet. I had to do research on it. And was like, oh my god, I didn't know there was a newspaper. I didn't know that there were two black newspapers in Chicago. Or when I talk about Beverly and, like, the Potawatomi indigenous tribe lived there, had no clue. Beverly
Right.
is just like the one spot where, one of the two spots on the south side where white people still are. You know what I mean? But like, I did a little bit of research and found that out. So it was just like, it was fun, and eye opening to learn those things.
Right. It was interesting to read. I did like the fact that you incorporated, the historical elements, because anybody's been following Brown Girl Collective for a while, they know that that's kind of how I built the platform and sharing a lot of history and things like that, because it is important to know who we are, where we've come from, what's ahead, all of those things. And if you don't know, you just don't know. And it's good to be able to get, have access to the information and maybe understand why some things are the way that they are now. And someone said, I like those historical moments. Absolutely. Because I lost the bookmark, but one of my favorite passages in the book was when you were talking about, I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was something where you were talking about history and the difference in how people moved from one area to another. Oh, when you talked about, like on page 110, when you're talking about Grandma Violet and how she loved Chicago, and just it's like 3 or 4 chapters that were really good, just talking about the difference between Chicago and some of the writers that were in Chicago and what they talked about and all of that. I really enjoyed that because it was telling someone's story through the history of some of the great people who are from Chicago and things that happened there. So yeah, I'm talking about on 110 and 111 for those who have the book. That's where what I'm talking about. So you'll have to go and find it for yourself. 110, 111.
Not I was sounding like you was quote from the Bible, Miss Marcy.
Yeah, a lot of times when I read, people are like, "Oh, I like your reading." I'm like, "Hey, maybe I need to think about doing some."
Hey, you never know. Get that money as a voiceover artist.
Right. Yeah, there is money in that. But one last thing I just wanted to talk about, because of course, it's kind of a sidebar to the thing of talking about Chicago, and we know that there have been a lot of things in the news, which is why I liked how you talked about Chicago in a different way, because a lot of what we hear in the news are the negative things about Chicago or violence in Chicago and things like that. And you brought it up a little bit earlier about the times and things like that. How do you think that your story and your way of presenting this story gives people different insight into what may be happening with the things we hear in the news in terms of crime in Chicago area?
Well, I mean, I hope it gives them perspective that that's like not the only thing going on in the Chicago area. And truth be told, crime is everywhere. So, I mean, it's not, it's not particular to Chicago.
Right.
Do we have our issues with crime? Absolutely. I'm hoping Saving Ruby King broadens people's perspectives as to what Chicago, specifically the South Side, does have to offer, and perhaps why things are the way that they are at the present moment. I also hope that it, opens people's minds to the fact that, like, there isn't just this one mass group of people. Like, we all have different stories. There are a lot of good people here, a lot. And, the good here outweighs the bad. Unfortunately, the bad is what, churns the news cycle. If it was just happy news all the time, like,
Right.
like, oh, hey, this author came out with a book. This guy did this mural. Like, this woman is giving out food to the homeless. You know what I mean? Like, those are the stories that are really gonna get focused on. But it happens every day on the south side of Chicago because I see it with my own eyes. You know what I mean? So I kind of hope, not I kind of hope, but I hope Saving Ruby King informs people's opinion on a city that isn't just overcome with like 90-second or 60-second news clips. Like, that's not the the whole of a city or the whole of a city's soul. That's one broken part, but you don't know about all the good parts. So I'm hoping that Saving Ruby King shows you that there are wonderful, magnificent parts too.
Absolutely. But that is great. And someone just said, trying to put these up. Thank you. Wonderful discussion. You're welcome, Paula. I agree. It was a great discussion. So we're getting ready to start wrapping up. I did want to ask you, Catherine, what things do you have coming next that we can be on the lookout for?
Oh, So many things. I have, excuse me, I have a prequel that's focusing on Sarah and her time in Memphis, Tennessee, called
Okay.
Becoming Sarah King.
Mm-hmm.
That will be out in 2022.
Okay.
In 2021, I have I'm part of an anthology with Bloomsbury called Everybody Shines. One of my stories is
Mm-hmm.
featured in that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so like I have Saving Routine that came out this year. Everybody Shines is next year. Cass Newbold is the editor. We have a lot of awesome authors who are a part of that book, and then uh, year after that is Becoming Sarah King. So I am pretty busy,
Yeah,
and
you're
I'm
gonna be
also
busy.
yeah, and I also am working on a Lebanon a book about Lebanon and what happened post the events of Saving Ruby King,
Oh,
and
that's
then I'll probably end a book with what happens to Ruby ultimately. And in between that, I'll probably have like another book coming out. So like I'll probably have something coming out probably
you'll be
like
right here
every.
for the next 10 years, basically.
I'm sorry, say that
Which is
again.
good. You'll have something coming out every year for the next 10 years. Then sounds great.
I mean, yeah, I better get to writing. See, why am I talking to you? I gotta write. I gotta go. I'm so tired. I have to write stories now.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep you from your brilliance.
No, 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 no,
And
no, no,
and
no.
I have
Please, please.
to
Writers love to procrastinate. We love to procrastinate. Talk to me another 3 hours. That means I don't have to like think about writing. Okay.
right, exactly. Let me see. Someone else said, I'm just trying to get some of these comments up here before we go. Thank you. Oh, so thank you from Vancouver, British Columbia. Okay. For some reason, it's not popping up, but yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
All
From the
right.
Black from Vancouver. All right. This book nerd loved this discussion. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you so
us.
much.
Someone else
Definitely.
is saying they love the book, didn't want to put it down. We have another comment saying, any plans on getting it to the screen?
Well, let's just say that there are things being worked on. I can't really, be super decisive yet, but that is definitely an option and something that's being looked into. Wait.
Absolutely, because it would be a good story to see, and especially if you have all these things coming, it could be like Roots, the first, second, third, fifth. I'm
Oh
just
Lord,
messing
please
with
don't
you.
don't let it be like Roots. Jesus. No, we cannot.
I'm joking, just the different generations.
We're not saying thank you to Master Harvey. We ain't doing any of that. Like that's
You
not.
don't have to go back quite that far, but
We not
just
getting ready to go there. I mean, if you want to, why don't we do the color purple, Mister Mister, Mister. Let's let's try. Let's do Alice Walker. I'm gonna do Alice Walker.
right, exactly. But just having the continuation of the story,
Yeah,
basically.
no,
I'm gonna
absolutely, absolutely.
get back to a couple of the questions, and I don't know if these people are still here or not. Saying that the best place to find an agent, that's maybe something they would need to reach you out offline for that. Because speaking of which, I have your information at the bottom. You can tell people how to get in touch with you either on social media or otherwise. I did have a couple things listed. I don't know if there's anything else
Sure.
besides the Twitter, the
Yeah, those are the
Instagram.
best ways to hit me up. I'm on Instagram and Twitter heavily.
Okay.
You can also hit me up through www.catherineadelwest.com. But I'm definitely, heavy on Twitter and Instagram. I, try to interact with as many people as possible. And in terms of, if somebody wants to find an agent, there are a lot of resources out there. I would suggest you get involved in the writing community on Twitter. That's kind of how I got my start. And it's a very, welcoming community. So like just if you have a Twitter account, if you do like hashtag writing community, you find like a lot of resources if you Google. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my start.
All right, thanks for sharing that because we want to try to answer all those questions as well and go from there. Well, you don't know this, Catherine, because this is your first time with us, but generally at the end, I'm seeing somebody just leaving notes about the book, but at the end of each meeting, we talk about the book for the next time. So just to let everyone know, for those of you who don't already know, I'm moving at the end of this month. Actually, 3 weeks from today, I go pick up keys to move from the Savannah area to Atlanta. So yeah, I gotta say bye to Savannah. But I'll be coming back because my mom is in the area. So yeah, I'm going to the ATL shorty. I'm on my way.
Miss
So we
Marcy getting
will.
ready to get turned. She's getting ready to get turned up. Let's get ready
Oh
to do
man.
one.
Right, absolutely. So we will not be meeting in the month of January because I will just be getting into my new place at that point. So I got a couple of things to tell you. Our next book will be on February the 1st, and we'll be reading The World According to Fannie Davis by Bridget M. Davis. She will be here with us. This is a story about her mother's life as a Detroit numbers runner. So this is going to be our book for February the 1st. It'll probably be tomorrow that I'll get a chance to put up the information just so you can, know where to get it and all of that. But just go ahead and prepare for February 1st. That we'll be just having a discussion with Bridget Davis about the world according to Fannie Davis. However, I also have a second book that I would suggest that you read because it's going to prepare us for one of the books that we'll be reading in the spring of 2021, and that is The Coldest Winter Ever. If you haven't read it, go ahead and read it or reread it because the sequel is coming out in March. So if you want to go ahead and read this so that we can be prepared to discuss the sequel, we won't discuss this one. But this is kind of like if you read a lot like I do, this would be something to kind of read in between while you're waiting for us to pick up for the book for February. So I'll put all this information within the group so kind of this is the homework assignment. My mom was a teacher, so
was
homework
mine.
assignment.
Mine was a teacher too. So
okay, what grade? My mom was elementary.
So was mine, 6th, 7th, and 8th, reading
okay,
and
mine had
English.
Kids, like 2nd, 3rd, 4th throughout the course of her career. But yeah, so we're going to read, I would suggest reading The Coldest Winter Ever. If you haven't read it before, believe it or not, I haven't. So it'll be a first for me. But if you have read it, this is a good time to reread it so we can be prepared for what's coming next. And I want to say the new book is Life After Death. But as I said, I'll post all of that so you can go ahead, might want to go ahead and pre-order because as I'm sure Catherine can tell you, pre-orders are important to authors. So we want to support Sister Soldier with that. So this is to save the date, and the other is just if you got time, if you like to read like I do. So the other thing you may or may not know, if this is your first time here, I always give away the next book, a copy of the next book. So if you're still here, I see like 17 people looks like watching. If you can go ahead and drop in the chat a number between 1 and 64, and I am going to pull a number, and you will get a chance to win the Fannie Davis book. And because it's the holiday season, I'm feeling generous. You'll get this one too.
Don't pass it up. Do it.
So go ahead and start. Yes, thank you. I see some numbers being dropped in the box. Yes. Go ahead, give y'all a couple seconds, and then I'm going to pull. Okay, number 35. Please go back and put at least your first name because I can't see your name. You must be in the BGC Book Club group, and it doesn't show up what your name is. So the person who chose 35, please put 35 back in there and put your name so I'll know who it is. I'll give it like one more minute. And Catherine, I got something special on the way to you too. So Yeah, number 35, number 60. Just put your first name. You don't have to put your whole name. Give it like one more minute and I'm going to pull. And you will get 2 books to read over the holidays.
I'm excited now. I'm like, come on. What's the number?
Okay. I guess we got everybody who's going to put a number in. Okay, Sally is 35. Okay, to join the BGC book club, the way that you can join, if you're on the Brown Girl Collective page, I believe there is a link there that shows groups, and it's BGC book club. Or if you don't see it there, if you just type into the search bar BGC book club, and you can join us there. Okay, so I've got my first number. My first number is 5, and that looks like that's Paula Abdullah. So you win both books. Both of these, Paula. So Paula, go ahead and either on the if you're in the Brown Girl Collective page, just send me a message through that page so I can get your address and get these books out to you. So congratulations. I think you are a first time follower as well. So congratulations, Paula. Yay. So you can
books is always good.
Books are always a great gift.
That's always a good gift.
So I just thank you, Catherine, again for being with us. I really appreciate you coming on and joining with us. And now that I know you've got like 11 books coming out in the future. And I enjoy your energy.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you come back and talk to us again. And maybe I'm thinking of some different things for the new year. Perhaps have something where we can have some authors come on and just talk to people who are writers, because I'm actually in the process of doing some things myself. I have a letter that will be included in a book called Dear Black Girl that's coming out next year. Tamara Winfrey Harris. That book is coming out in March, and I will be featured in that book. So I'm looking to go beyond that and write something of my own. So the more we can learn, the better.
Yeah. I'll be so happy to come back and definitely answer questions about writing and the publishing experience and all of that. Like, pay it forward. I will tell you what I know.
Right, absolutely, and thank you so much. So we have some folks saying thanks so much, Miss West. Looking forward to your new projects and all of that. And it is 9:08. I know you have to go to bed because you got to get up early.
I got to get up early, and this is so much fun.
I want to wish everybody a wonderful, happy holiday season, whatever you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, just happy, healthy season going in through this next couple of months. I won't really see you. I might pop in every now and again just to say, hey, I'm here. But I won't be on as much because I will be in the process of moving. But I want you all to stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year. Love you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Miss Marcy.
You're welcome. Have a good one. Blessings to you too, sis.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.
I think you're from the South calling me ma'am, but anyway.
It's a sign of respect. I'm sorry.
All right then, ladies. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Have a great night. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye. Night, night.